Hi everybody, Richard Tromans here again at Artificial Lawyer TV. Today we're doing another product walkthrough, this time with Jurimesh, which is a product focused on due diligence. To tell us a bit more about it is Jorrit. Hey Jorrit.
Hey, Richard.
Great to have you on the show. I'm going to disappear and as people know, I will come back at the end, but before then, please take it away.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks for that. So basically, what we're doing is like basically automating that legal due diligence process end to end. So basically, what we started is like a virtual data room. So currently, we're working on synchronizations with virtual data room providers, but in the end, the virtual data room needs to get into like our environment. So it could be on the one hand by just dragging and dropping the virtual data room. On the other hand, also by for example, like I said, synchronization or whatever. It could also be like with the zip upload. So how it typically works is that you can like upload your folders, upload your files, and then basically here you can, for example, see some article associations. Our tool is, by the way, entirely cross-lingual. So for example, here we do have a Dutch document, but that works perfectly fine. So you can like open that up and then basically have that content being extracted here. You also have your date of incorporation act being extracted from that. Your date of incorporation act actually, your jurisdiction, your language, and then also like the parties involved. So that's kind of like all kinds of metadata that's being extracted from all your documents in your virtual data room. So on one hand, you have like PDFs, but on the other hand, you also have like Word documents. So for example, here, if you have management agreements, that's also being extracted. All the information actually also comes from those Word documents, and the same applies here. You just extract the dates and all that kind of stuff. So you could say that that's basically some kind of pre-processing step first. After that pre-processing step, what then happens typically is that you can like do a reorganization of your virtual data. So let's take here, for example, the categories. You have an information request list. You can upload your information request list here, your own, or you could use ours. And then we'll be doing a restructuring of that whole virtual data room according to an IRL. Basically, make sure that all your management agreements come together, all your article associations come together, and that you get like a structured data room from an unstructured data room. That's kind of like just there. So that's basically what happens next then. And then from then on, from you have like a clear data room, then you can start creating presets. And presets are kind of the information that you want to extract from your virtual data room. It's those corporate fact sheets, as it's also being called in the jargon. And basically there you have two types. So on the one hand, there is a one-by-one preset type. On the other hand, a cross-document type. So one by one is perfect, for example, for management agreements, rental agreements, insurance documents, whatsoever. So you can basically just, for management agreements, our structuring feature will detect all the management agreements in the data room, and then you will be applying basically all the questions for your management agreements on that management agreement. And you could be asking for what are the non-competition provisions, the non-recruitment provisions, the provisions regarding IP transfer, and so on. So basically define all these, and then in a second I'll be showing like what the results of that are. So that's one by one. Second thing is actually cross-document. So cross-document basically goes for like article associations is a great example for that. You have your Incorporation Act, you have your Amendments Act of Article Associations, you have many other acts, could also be for amendments of whatever, that basically it will be cross documents, bringing it all together and creating a coherent view on that. So examples here are like what's the date and time of ordinary general meeting? Are there any restrictions on transfer of shares? And if so, what are transfer restrictions? It's going to go through all the documents and check like if there's any restriction. The same applies actually for let's say like how did the cap table evolve over time? It's going to check first in the Incorporation Act it was like XYZ, and then it has been changed to the whatever structure. So that's kind of like how that basically works. So that's the concept of your presets, and then basically these presets per due diligence you can like apply them on your virtual data room, and you will have your basically your insights being extracted from here. So for management agreements, for example, you basically have also a table view. Let's detoggle the table view. And then for the management agreements of alpha, of gamma, you have here all your presets being applied on your virtual data room. If you ask for the IP transfer provisions, it will give you like the IP transfer provisions for the management agreement of gamma, with also an ability to click on the reference, and then you'll be jumping into your management agreement and seeing exactly where that IP transfer provisions were located. Same applies for example, what else do you want to know? Like, for example, the applicable law, Belgium. If you click on them, you'll be seeing the one sentence that's relevant actually being marked here. Yet another functionality is like the table view, so that you can like do a analysis per document, or basically a comparison more. So you'll be seeing like, okay, we have a notice period of 12 months in the management agreement of alpha, you have one of 3 months in the one of beta, and you'll have one of 6 months in the one of gamma. And then also another thing is that with the Word export, so you can basically like export it to Word. And what you'll be seeing then is that you have here your export to this, and then basically this is basically your very descriptive due diligence report that could on the one hand be sent over to the clients, or on the other hand you also have the ability to have that due diligence or that descriptive due diligence report as your basis for going towards that red flag due diligence more. And that's also a final thing that we're currently working on, is that from going to that descriptive to that red flag, that's also something that we're automating as we speak. And then final thing that could be relevant is that cross-document preset run. So basically what you're doing here is, if you're asking for restrictions on transfer of shares for for your article associations here for the company codes, it will be taking the entire virtual data room. It will be finding an incorporation act, how 2001. It will find 5 restrictions on transfer of shares here. You will also be seeing your Amendments Act of Article Associations. It will have 2 additional restrictions on transfer of shares, and it basically brings them all together here in a coherent overview. So that's basically how that works. You could also do a Word export of that, and you have your due diligence actually being automated mostly. As said earlier, this is the very descriptive due diligence, and then working towards the red flag due diligence as we speak. So that's basically it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jory. We'll just stay there for a second. So in terms of the sort of volume, can you put in a lot of documents? I mean, what if you were doing a very big M&A deal, what kind of volume of documents can you put through this?
Yeah, there's actually like no restriction on that. So typically we do work with either usage-based or more like a tier-based pricing, that if you use more documents, then of course the pricing is going to rise a little. But however, we have done due diligences in the past of like almost 1,000 documents, and that was like not a problem at all. So it's entirely scalable, of course, and it's actually scaled linearly. So if there's more documents being uploaded, it's just linearly rising in time. And the whole due diligence, like the whole doing of this uploading of all the documents, then doing the preset runs, it typically takes like a max of 5 to 10 minutes. So it actually goes very quick.
Gotcha, fantastic. And in terms of integrations, obviously you've got the Word one there. In terms of like famous DMS companies like iManage, NetDocuments, and such like, do you have integrations with those?
We're focusing more on integrations with the virtual data room providers. So currently we're for example having talks with for example on Sarada, to see like if we could have an integration between them, that if there's new documents being uploaded on that virtual data room provider, that it's synchronizing with us, and then we can have like those new documents being reflected in our database, and then you basically can also directly incorporate them in your analysis. So that's something we're working out, but with an iManager or whatever, we're not yet having synchronizations or
Gotcha.
integration.
Fantastic. And just a technical question on the technology. Obviously, this is generative AI based, or a large part of it is. What kind of models are you using?
So we're actually using a mixture of lots of types of models. So on the one hand, we have our own search model, our own embedding model, and that's actually a proprietary model. We also trained that ourselves on quite some legal data. So that's one thing. On the other thing, or on the other hand, but there we're also using quite some LLM based models, but we are not using only GPT. So we're using GPT for some tasks. For other tasks, we've noticed that Gemini, for example, works better. So it's like a whole mixture of things that work better, and it's basically like the whole sauce that's making the product like work end to end.
Got you. And are you using sort of more traditional machine learning as well? You know, the kind of things that you've seen in probably earlier products.
Yeah, so yeah, we're also doing that. So for example, for clause, we're currently working very hard on like clause detection, checking out like or just extracting clauses specifically, not just chunking per paragraph, per chunking per clause. So for that, we're working on like creating a database ourselves of like clauses, and then basically training a model on that. But that could be a more classic model as well. So we're integrating some parts of classical machine learning as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. And just the last question, it's evident that you can do translation, but just so that people understand at home, so this can move between different languages?
Yeah, actually, we support currently 27 languages. So your underlying documents could be, for example, let's take underlying documents that are French. You could
Mhm.
have your presets being defined in English. And if you want to, you could, for example, also define your output language and say, like, hey, I want my output to be in German. And then your output is going to be in German. So that's basically entirely cross-lingual, yes.
Interesting. So just to clarify, so if an English law firm was doing an M&A deal and they had a bunch of documents in French, they could put the questions in English and they would
Yeah,
get English
exactly.
questions in return.
Exactly. That's how it works. Because
Hmm.
actually, our model has been trained like over 27 languages, and that means that if your underlying documents is in French, but your question is in English, because we're basically first gonna chunk per clause, and then we're gonna semantically determine what's this clause about. We're also going to determine that of your question. And because it's semantically, the language inherently doesn't matter. It's more like semantically searching like what's relevant to answer this question. It's going to go through all the documents, find certain clauses that are relevant to answer a certain question, and then basically going to provide you an answer for that. So that's actually why it's not language dependent at all.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joy. That's all we've got time for now, but thank you very much and good luck with everything. Thank you.